How are you able to take care of your tenants' maintenance while maintaining your sanity, providing your tenants with something they can be happy with, and keeping under budget on your rental properties? Contracting maintenance is probably one of the biggest headaches for landlords and also one of the most important things to tenants. An early 2000s study showed that 34% of tenants valued maintenance as one of the most important factors in determining where they wanted to live. Maintenance takes a significant portion of every landlord's budget, with 18% of my gross revenues being consumed by maintenance, and similar sized landlords in my town spending up to 30% of their rents on maintenance every month. With maintenance being that important to tenants and that expensive for landlords, how can you create a win-win situation? This is extremely important. There's two different ways that I've used to handle maintenance in the past. We'll talk about the second one of them. The first one is by utilizing a reputable contractor in your home market and totally automizing your maintenance process. I talk about this in my course, Managing Properties Remotely, that you can get down below. If you don't want to totally automate your business and you'd rather save some money, the second way is what we're going to talk about now. I'm guessing if you don't want to click and buy my course, you probably would rather use your time than your money, and so that's why we're talking about this one. Utilizing handymen is going to be your most cost-efficient solution to keeping your maintenance costs low, but it's also going to be your most time-consuming. The reason these people are handymen, not contractors, is because they haven't created a professional business. So that doesn't mean that they're not good maintainers. They'll do great work, but the follow-up and the communication is not going to be there. 100% guaranteed. You're not going to have good follow-up. You're not going to have good communication, but you can get quality work at a very reasonable price. But how reasonable of a price? That's the question. Let me tell you a story of two remodels that I've done. One remodel was a total remodel done by contractors, cost me $47,000, took 4 months to complete. The house rents for just under $500 a month. The second remodel cost me a total purchase price, remodel, everything of $14,000 and currently rents for $550 a month and only took 1 month to complete. This one was completed entirely by labor found on Craigslist. So you hear those $47,000 4 months or $14,000 1 month. What makes the difference in those two homes? The biggest thing was it cost my sweat equity. So my sweat equity, although some of it was in labor on the second example, working in the house, the majority was coordinating, communicating, and following up with laborers that I found on Craigslist. Were these the most professional people? Absolutely not. Did they do good work? Yes. Did some of it need redone? Absolutely. But I was there every step of the way, making sure that it happened and it was completed. So how do you get this Craigslist labor? One is selecting it wisely. So for $3, you can run a gig ad on Craigslist. I suggest running a very complete ad, exactly what you're looking for, and require something of the applicants. So for example, I like to say, I was looking for roofers for one example. We'll just say, so roofers looking for roofers, experience needed, must bring your own tools, please text, and then I put a Google Voice number that I have with your name, phone number, email address, company that you've worked for, years of roofing experience, and any references. After posting this ad, I got over 40 responses within 2 days, but only 3 responses actually followed the instructions that I had provided, which was provide the required information. I contacted those 3 people, I asked them what their rates were, and 2 of them showed up. And we were able to get the entire house roofed, 4-layer tear off, entire redeck, entire re-roof in 2.5 days. It's an incredible timeline. Similar contractor bids for that job were $6,500. We were able to complete it under $2,800 in 2.5 days. So it's a testimony by running a good ad on Craigslist, making sure you follow up with people and make sure that they actually complete the labor. You can get things done less than half the price as for a regular contractor, but with that cost savings, you're definitely investing your own time. What does this look like for housing projects? For your ongoing home maintenance. Your ongoing home maintenance is a little bit trickier because these handymen aren't going to be the same people. If you're using the same handyman for a long time, you're doing it wrong. You're losing out on the prime benefit of a handyman, which is cost savings. A handyman should cost about a quarter of the price of a contractor or less. For example, I pay decent handymen in my town $10 an hour, where similar contractor rates would be $60 an hour plus a $100 call out fee. So when I'm using a handyman, I'm paying less than a sixth the price as what I would be paying a contractor. So if you're using the same handyman regularly, it creates two problems. One, you're probably overpaying, and two, you're also risking creating an employee-employer relationship with that contractor. A handyman needs to be on call for a specified job that handyman completes, gets paid for, and then moves on with no enduring relationship. If you have an enduring relationship, you may be creating an employer obligation in your state, depending on your state's labor laws. Also, a lot of times these handymen are going to be kind of like fishermen, like a fish, right? The fish, if he's hungry, he bites. If he's not hungry, you're not going to hear from the fish. So the same thing with the contractor. You need to keep a large network of contractors if you're going to use this technique. The reason being because you may not be able to get a timely response from a contractor. You likely won't be able to get a timely response from the handyman. Continually run ads on Craigslist, continually run Facebook ads looking for handymen. Build a large Rolodex of handymen so when you get a request from a tenant about maintenance, you're able to reach out to a large network of contractors, find a time when one of those handymen is able to show up, find the lowest bid, get that handyman out, and then close the loop with the tenant. One of the next problems with tenants and maintenance is communication. So tenants feel like they haven't been communicated with well. So how are you going to do that? A reputable contractor is going to have some girls working the desk that are going to talk to those tenants. They're going to schedule a maintenance person. They're going to follow up with the maintenance person. Maintenance is going to be completed, and then the contractor is going to send you a bill. So when you are serving as the property manager, you need to think about all those jobs that aren't being completed when you hire a handyman. There's no girl at the desk that's coordinating the maintenance. There's no owner of the contracting firm that's making sure the maintenance request actually gets fulfilled like there is with a large contractor. And lastly, there's nobody there to follow up with the tenant to make sure they're satisfied with the work. So you as the property manager, when you're using handyman, have to fill all of these gaps. You need to make sure that the handyman is contacted. You need to make sure that the handyman is scheduled. You need to make sure the handyman actually shows up to the scheduled job. And then when the job's completed, you need to make sure that the billing is completed and the tenant is happy with the work. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to continue doing work until the tenant says everything's done, right? Because that's not realistic. But you are going to make sure that basic standards are met by the handyman prior to calling the job complete. So for example, maybe the tenant had a leaky faucet, and then we get a handyman in there, they fix the leaky faucet. Maybe the tenant doesn't like the way the finish work was done, or the tenant isn't necessarily happy with the type of faucet that was put in. But what's the standard? The leaky faucet. Does the faucet leak? If no, the job's complete. We can pay the handyman and we can move on to the next thing. Then the complaint management becomes the most important thing. If the tenant isn't happy with the job, but the work standards are complete, now our job as the property manager is to make sure we communicate with the tenant the great value they're getting in the property, how quickly we were able to fix the leaky faucet, and the fact that they no longer have a leaky faucet in their house, and we're able to provide a great house at a decent price for them. And that becomes our main job as the property manager. Big differences between contracting maintenance and using a handyman is the contractor, you're not just paying for the handyman to complete the work. When you're paying a contractor, you're paying somebody to receive the work order. You're paying for the work order to be distributed to the people who are going to do the work. You're paying for management of the people doing the work. You're paying for the person doing the work. You're paying for the follow-up with the billing, and you're paying for follow-up with customer service. So when you pay a contractor, you're paying for 6 jobs to be completed. When you have a handyman, you're only getting 1 job. That's the work being completed. So it's not, by paying a handyman a sixth of what you pay a contractor, it isn't that you're cheating the handyman, it's that you're assuming the other 5 jobs yourself. So whereas that contractor would charge a call-out fee and $60 an hour, I can't pay a handyman more than $10 an hour because I'm doing 5 more jobs myself. So that is how you get your cost savings, by having handymen over contractors. Make sure when you run your Craigslist ads or when you run your Facebook ads for handymen that you're regularly following up with all the people who responded correctly. Make sure that you're keeping a Rolodex or a contact sheet or a CSV file of all the handymen, the work they've done for you in the past, whether it was good or bad, whether it was timely completed or not. So that way you have something to go back to when you're soliciting bids for new projects. By getting larger projects bid out, or just by getting handymen in for things you know that are going to be a quick turn. A leaky faucet would be a quick turn. A water heater repair would usually be a quick turn. Water heater install would be a quick turn. Larger projects that you want to bid would be air conditioners or heating units that aren't working. Things that require more extensive maintenance, such as like a total reflooring. Something that would be real easy would be a paint touch-up that needs done. Extensive drywall would be something that would need bid. So make sure that you're keeping in contact with all of your handymen on a semi-regular basis, so that way you know who's actively looking for work and who's not looking for work at that time. People that are looking for work are going to be the ones that are going to get those jobs done quickly. They're getting them done in a timely manner. But some of the handymen won't be as desperate for work at any given time. So while they'll tell you they can get a job done, if you don't set the conditions as a property manager by asking them, can you get it done on this date, or can you get it done on this time, and then following up with them, realize you're asking them for something that they're not prepared to deliver on.